Are we live?
We are so live. I'm in the middle of eating my toast.
Okay. Well, we might as well just chat for the first minute and a half because that's how long it takes for the satellites to.
You don't know that.
Well, that's what I did in the last video.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen today.
Okay. We have our tea. We have our toast.
Tea and toast. Tea. She takes her tea in a mug. I take my tea in a teacup.
My cup is a teacup. It's just bigger than yours. Okay, so I finished my week 1 of The Artist's Way, and things to tell you about. 1, the morning pages, which is basically the journal writing. I did it almost every day, which is pretty good. I think I did 6 days. And one thing I noticed about it, though, similar to your power poses, she does power poses in the morning. And you said that affected your mood.
It does affect my mood. It raises my testosterone and lowers my cortisol.
Yes, but what does it make you feel like?
It makes you feel powerful and calm.
Yeah.
Because when your cortisol is low and your testosterone is high, that's what it does. The cortisol makes you stressed out. So if it takes away the cortisol, it makes you feel calm.
So I've noticed that doing the morning pages every morning, I feel better. And this is the reason why I think I feel better after doing them, is because I'm getting all of the stuff that I've been thinking about out on paper. And that's different than just typing it out. Or even that could be different than, talking it out.
Yeah.
But writing it out, and the whole point that Julia Cameron wants you to do is to not read it ever, not read it for a long time. If you want to go back later, you can, but it's just stuff that you get out of your head. So I've noticed that my mood has elevated a little bit since doing the morning pages.
Why is it elevated just from getting that stuff out? Is it because you don't have to think about it anymore?
Probably. I don't know.
You don't have to worry about it? Because that's similar to a book, this classic time management book that I've been reading this week, Getting Things Done, Getting It Done.
That book you got.
Getting It Done. It's over there on my Kindle, but I can't remember the author. We will look it up and we'll put it in the notes.
It's a guy.
We'll give you a link to that thing. But anyway, it's this classic. It's a guy. It's this classic book about getting it done, getting things done. And so he talks about one of the first steps that you do is you write down everything you have to do. And what's interesting is that he mentions the psychological benefits of writing down everything you have to do so that you don't have to remember it. And he specifically says, get it out of your mind, because if you have to constantly rerun that list of things that you have to do, it'll stress you out.
I think of it like if you're constantly storing stuff on a computer.
Yes.
It not only slows the computer down, but eventually you will get to a point where there is no more storage.
And I don't know if your brains work like this, but I know my brain does. And so once I've read through the book, I'll be able to implement the stuff better and let you know how that goes. But I think it's the same thing with Ms. Cameron, is that she's saying, get it out of your brain and don't come back to it until later. But this is just brain junk that she's having you get out, right? Creative ideas.
Yeah, this is just brain junk. And something that I've noticed that, she says that she does workshops with people, and a lot of the stuff that she would notice that people wouldn't know what to write down. I already have a background of journal writing, and so I know what I don't know, I know what to put down.
You just intuitively know what
what I need to get out, and I don't have sentences of writing. I don't know what to say. This is stupid. This is a waste of time, So, okay, the next thing was the weekly artist date. And I was planning on doing another page of my art journaling, but I forgot / ran out of time. So, but the whole point of an artist date is to do something by yourself, with intention, though. So I didn't quite get to that this week, although I do a lot of things by myself anyway. So
You kind of already do that.
I kind of already do that, but anyway, I'll get to it next week. So those are the two main things we're gonna. I'm gonna check up on every week, and then I went through the chapter. At the end of the chapter, she has you do little exercises and little check-ins, and there's like a list of like 10 different things that you can do. But I didn't do that this week. Well, I'll do it next week. A lot of the things that she had was like write a letter to, I think, like reaching your childhood and talking, picking a person, being very specific and picking a person in your life who either discouraged your creative self or not necessarily was just mean to you, but really discouraged your creative self, and write to them of how they made you feel because they did that to you. I don't know. That was most of the little numbers. And so even when I read that, even though I didn't do any of those, I'm like, I don't know.
That would take me to a weird headspace.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point is working through all those tough things. That's the point of this course. But
well, I suppose you can remove, try to symbolically remove the obstacles that you have. Especially if you've got a strong inner critic, you want to identify exactly whose voice that is. I gotta say, I have a parental voice in my head saying, you should be doing something more useful.
Yes.
Rather than expressing yourself creatively and working on your writing, which is my form of creative outlet.
Well,
my main form of creative outlet.
And which leads me to some of in her basic principles right before the chapter 1, she has some little like affirmations and things to tell yourself that I was reading to you. Mm-hmm. That goes along with that. Stop telling yourself it's too late.
Because it's never too late.
Because it's never too late.
If you're breathing.
There's that book publishing company. What's her name? Hayes? Is it Hayes Publishing? Hay House. She started that. She started that when she was 60.
That's true. And now she's like 412.
And now she's like 80.
And gorgeous.
And it's a really successful publishing company. Mm-hmm. Stop waiting until you make enough money to do something you really love.
Oh my gosh.
Now this is a big thing. Coming from someone who grew up in a family, didn't have a lot of money, and still doesn't have a lot of money, never grew up around it. And so we're always mm-hmm. having this sense of lack, or
not just a sense of lack, but
not the opposite of abundance.
There were opportunities that we were not able to enjoy.
Right.
Because we had limited resources. Now, we were creative, and so what's interesting is that our creativeness ended up compensating for a certain amount of that lack of resource. But yes. At the core of that, though, was, man, this is everything that I'm doing because we can't afford to do anything else. But if we had the money, wouldn't that be amazing? Just think of all the amazing things we could do if we did have money.
Yes, and for me, that idea of imagine what we can do if we had the money. Mm-hmm. And then those things never come. Because we never have the money.
Another thing is we didn't appreciate what we were able to do because we were always just getting by. But to everybody else, we were amazing.
Yes. And to a point, we're still all just getting by, kind of.
Yeah. But we're switching that paradigm.
But we're getting there. I mean, it's going slow, but low and slow. We're going to make some tender meat.
Just like cooking chicken.
Next thing, stop telling yourself it's just my ego whenever you yearn for a more creative life. And I don't know. I don't think I ever had a problem with that.
Well, most people don't understand the concept of ego. There are some people who feel self-conscious about their inner drive. And I don't think it's so, I don't know. Certain people are like, you've really got to shun your ego. The ego is the part of you, I guess, that takes
like
over and tries to
associate it with pride.
Right, tries to say that you're the most important thing on the planet or whatever. You know, I think you
self-confidence.
I think you just have to be. You have to have a relationship with your ego.
Yeah,
and be able to use it appropriately and assert yourself appropriately, which is appropriate. That's part of what I'm going to be dealing with this upcoming year, this upcoming summer.
Stop telling yourself that dreams don't matter, that they are only dreams, and that you should be more sensible.
Stop growing up, because being grown up is overrated.
Keep being a Peter Pan.
No, not a Peter Pan.
Stay a little girl.
No, grow up. You just don't want to grow up. That's all. You just grow up. You just don't lose, because man, people who are in touch with the wow part of life, like looking at life and saying life is amazing. That's what I was looking for. Sense of wonder.
Oh,
you can grow up. Just don't lose your sense of wonder. Don't lose your sense of appreciation, like everything's new every day.
That's true. I mean, it's like older people who some people would see as, I don't know, immature, but really they never lost their sense of wonder. Like you say, like people get older, but they're still the same person. That makes sense. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, our personalities aren't something that go away just because you get older.
Well, I'm not even talking about personality. It's like your personality can change, but if you grow up and you get bitter and hardened to life, people get tunnel vision. They get caught up in busyness and in stuff that just doesn't matter.
Yes.
Ultimately, you know, and yes, you gotta pay the bills, and yes, you gotta go to work or whatever. It depends. You have a choice as to what work you're going to do, and whatever you deem valid as work, you can work it out so that you can get the money you need. Like it's having faith in the fact that if I pursue my passion, there will be resource there for me. If I pursue what I feel like I'm here to do, there will be resources for me. And especially for artists of any kind, it's important to keep that sense of wonder and to be able to walk out your door every morning and notice at least a few things, like the birds chirping, the beautiful sky, how clean the air is, you know, either that or maybe even just the people walking by. You notice them, and you notice that it's a wonderful thing that they're there. That's the sense of wonder while you're on the way to the job.
Yes. You know? Well, and the other thing of, when people think of pursuing your passion or your what you're good at or what makes you happy, there's like this stereotypical feeling of you will always feel great and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Sunshine and double rainbows.
So intense.
Like there's never going to be any hard times associated with it.
Associated with following
your passions. Mm-hmm. And so when people do follow their passions and then may have a roadblock, or, you know, they're more apt to notice the bad things because in their head it was supposed to all be sunshines and double rainbows.
Right. And use it as an excuse to give up.
Use it as an excuse to give up.
That's part of what she's saying. She's like, just get over that. It's never too late. What were some of the other things she said? She said,
well, go along with that, the stereotypical, she was talking about beliefs. Negative and positive, negative beliefs about who an artist is, and then versus positive alternations that you can do to choose that. Like a painter artist is stereotypically drunk, crazy, broke, irresponsible,
Right.
loners, promiscuous, doomed, unhappy, you know. And then changing that, saying no, they're all not like that. And maybe there may be, you know, like in history, some really good painter artists were crazy and constantly drunk and maybe irresponsible, but it doesn't mean you have to be.
We also don't understand why. Like, there's this whole thing with hardcore writers being alcoholics, and a lot of them do have problems with addiction. But what a lot of folks don't understand about being a writer is that you are in a state of noticing things so often that you just kind of don't live in this world a lot of the time. I mean,
That's
you
true.
do, but you don't. And so you do kind of seem crazy because,
well, you see things as they are.
yes,
You're reaching into your, and
we're
I feel
always
this.
reaching
I feel
into
this
our
all
right
the time.
brains, yeah.
Reaching into. I love to reach into my right brain, and that's where my creativity comes from. Most of my creativity comes from that. And going into that, it's like going into your little dream world versus being in the left side of your brain where it's more logical. That's where your voice critic comes from, the left side. And hang on, I was going somewhere. Go ahead, I'll think of it.
I was going to say yes, exactly. And because true, and I don't want to.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
You don't want to come out of that dream world because coming back into reality kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And going into your creative dream world, it's like a place where you can be who you are. You see things for what they are, as they are, no judgment. And I think living in this body or having this mind that isn't you, kind of, it gets depressing.
Yeah, it does. And that's what I'm trying to say is that it's difficult for artists to be understood. And it's difficult for, well, and when I say artists, I'm like hardcore career artists who are really, really deep into their right brain, really, really deep into the creative mode. They have a tendency to have a difficult time relating with other people. And that can be really alienating and frustrating. And so often creative people will result to substance abuse. And I mean, it's a long, long story, but writers are well known for being alcoholics, even though I'm not. But you know, I made a decision a long time ago not to really try alcohol, so that's probably the only thing that's keeping me from it. But I have a couple of writer friends because I'm in a writing program right now, and I have a couple of writer friends. They're alcoholics, you know. And so it can be stereotypical, but you have to understand that living in a different state of mind and then also living in the world that we live in is difficult. But it doesn't have to be that way. And you don't have to turn to addiction.
That's right.
Just to close that thought off, there's this fantastic talk by the writer who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. What's her name?
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Elizabeth Gilbert, she gave this great talk about genius, and she was talking about how we need to stop holding artists responsible for their creative work and understand that it comes from this different place so that they don't have to turn to addiction and so that we don't have to lose them to suicide and other weird things like that. Anyway, it's fantastic talk. It's online.
Well, I heard that she went through this program herself, which snowballed her into doing the experiences that are in the book Eat, Pray, Love.
So,
and that sounds, her philosophy sounds exactly like this Julia Cameron's talking about, where she talks about this as a spiritual journey. So she talks about God and how creativity comes from God, and God, you know, like a similar thing, like you said, like,
which you could, of
it's
course,
not of
insert
you.
Word here.
Yeah, insert word blank. It comes from blank. Insert.
It comes from the universe. It comes from energy.
Here.
It comes from source. It comes from Eckhart Tolle.
Whatever
Whoever you
believe
want
in.
to assign as, yeah. Comes from Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
Big Bird.
Okay,
Bob Ross.
two more of her little thingies.
Affirmation.
Little affirmations. Stop fearing that your family and friends would think you crazy.
Yeah, just get off that crazy horse.
Get off the crazy train.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's just going back to put yourself in a different mindset. And if it's that important to you, then you need to put that trust in yourself.
It's essential to be creative, because if you're not creative, you're denying part of yourself, because everybody's creative.
You're going to have a real hard time the rest of your life.
Warning.
Stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury and that you should be grateful for what you've got.
Oh, man.
No.
Oh, man. That's something our family has struggled with.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, I just don't have time to be creative because I should be responsible.
Because I should be responsible and get a crap job so that I can earn crap money to live in a crap house.
To be miserable.
And
all the time you're denying yourself.
And you're having an even horrible time while you're at it.
That doesn't sound very fun.
No. So
Do you want to wrap it up?
I think I'll wrap it up with, that was basically chapter 1 was talking about. Learning to listen to your creative self. Learn to recognize the critic in you. Maybe if it's another person, if it's coming from another person, or maybe it's coming from yourself. And then she ends part of it with a contract. Make a contract with yourself to do this program. And I like the conditions. I'm going to read this part of this contract. I like the conditions. I, Kezia, further understand that this course will raise issues and emotions for me to deal with. And I, Kezia, commit myself to excellent self-care, adequate sleep, diet, exercise, and pampering for the duration of the course. I like it that she included, you not only need to take care of yourself, but you need to pamper yourself, and you need to, I guess, what's the word? Spoil yourself?
I wouldn't call
Not
it
really
spoiling. I mean, think about how you care for a child who's going through trauma, I think pampering, I think what a better word could have been have compassion.
There you go.
Have compassion for yourself. Be gentle with yourself, because change is hard. And anybody who expects you to change without feeling that, without feeling those feelings, man, that's so intense, doing something that you've never done before.
Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself,
So that's about it. Learning to realize where these voices are coming from, and finding where your creative self is. Next week, we'll be talking about recovering your sense of identity. So now that we know where this is coming from, we can recover your sense of identity.
Are you still working pretty well on learning to use words better?
So, well, this week, I think I printed out my blog posts. I have all these ideas of blog posts, but I can never figure out how to finish them. And I don't know how to finish them. I just don't know how to word them, because I know that how I speak, people won't understand, because that happens a lot.
In other words, they won't understand if you speak the way you speak with words on paper.
I think the words on
you
paper.
Speak out loud.
It's like having a romantic relationship via text.
Entirely via text.
There's no human connection. You can't look at the person's face. You don't know if they're being sarcastic, and that's where all like exclamation marks and emojis or whatever they're called.
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm trying to communicate via text, and a lot of times I get feedback of people don't. They're
Lost
I'm
in
not getting.
translation.
I don't get across what I mean.
Mm-hmm. So we're starting there.
So that's where I'm starting, and that's where I was working on this week. But I got about halfway through and I didn't finish those, but I'm gonna keep working on them. So yeah. Any closing remarks?
No, I
That's
think
pretty good.
I gave you my closing remarks mostly. Keep holding you accountable to working on your words.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll be working on for next week. Working on my words of making blog posts, because that's the hardest part for me. And then do another page in my art journal. So yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. It's nice seeing you. See you next week.